Hi, I'm Matthew Lapp, host of Matthew Lapp Train Guy. Also today I'm at the Midwest Central Railroad, Midwest Electric Railway, and Midwest Old Threshers in Mount Pleasant, Iowa, and continuing episode 31 with part 5. What you see right behind me is Midwest Central Railroad 303.
Midwest Central Railroad 303 was built by the Midwest Central Railroad shops in Mount Pleasant, Iowa in the 1960s and is a passenger coach. It was built from the frame of a hopper car that was once used by the East Broad Top Railroad in Pennsylvania as a foundation. It is a 10-foot longer than the original three cars, as it would increase the capacity of 52 car passengers from 36 passengers to 52 passengers, up from 36 passengers in the shorter design, which are the 200 series cars in the fleet of passenger cars. This car is modeled after a Civil War era car. It also appeared in the 2010 movie Dog-Jack, but it stayed at the Thresher Park when the movie was filmed. It operated on the Midwest Central Railroad for several years. Then in 2020 or 2021, it was taken out of service and the car's wood was rotted, so the car body was torn down to the skeleton and awaited a complete restoration. The body had to sit on the unconverted Denver and Rio Grande flat car in the collection while it was waiting to be restored. Also, the car just needed a brand new underframe, and it was constructed inside the Midwest Central shop in 2023. And the car was soon placed back on to the frame by the time the Midwest Old Threshers 2024 reunion had begun. And soon, more of the car body was worked on and painted, and the interior was worked on as well. In 2025, the project was complete and the car was back in service, and today it proudly sits on its new frame that was built for it. But unlike how it looks today, it used to match the rest of the cars in this length, but the exterior walls were redone, and so were the end platforms and steps, and it was painted color-wise and approximately looking more like a pre-1900 Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy passenger coach as well. Today, it is used on the passenger trains on the Midwest Central Railroad whenever trains are running and carries visitors on board as well.
What you see right behind me is East Broad Top 1055.
East Broad Top 1055 was built by the East Broad Top Railroad shops in Mount Union, Pennsylvania in the 1910s and is a 3-bay hopper car. This is not the actual number that this car was assigned to. It was used on the East Broad Top Railroad up in Pennsylvania many years ago and was used on freight trains with many different cars or a train with hopper cars, and hauled many different types of cargo such as rocks, coal, gravel, rubble, and many different types of cargo it was used to haul a long time ago. Then later on it was retired and was then acquired by the Midwest Central Railroad in Mount Pleasant, Iowa, where it can be seen today. For years it sat at the end of the siding next to the shed and was looking a bit rusty. It was till 2025 when it was moved from the siding to be restored to operation and was repainted a few days before Midwest Old Threshers began that year. Also, it was given this number, and as I said, this car never carried this number. But the actual car that had the number 1055 is still at the East Broad Top Railroad as well. Also, it sometimes rolls on the railroad as well.
What you see right behind me is Argent Lumber Company 1.
Argent Lumber Company 1 was built by Henry Kirk Porter in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1914 and is the 5540th steam locomotive built by that factory and is a 260 Mogul type steam locomotive. This locomotive was originally built for the Beaufort County Lumber Company in North Carolina and always had this number. In 1916, the Beaufort County Lumber Company helped to incorporate the Argent Lumber Company, and the locomotive was then moved to Hardeeville, South Carolina. The locomotive hauled logs for many years when it was working for the lumber companies. It also gained an iron cab and Rushton stack and electric light headlights that were installed along with a Pyle Nation dynamo, which was installed on the base of the rear sandbox. Not only did it haul logs, but it was often used as a switch in the Hardeeville, South Carolina yard. In 1956, the locomotive was then retired from hauling logs. In 1956, the locomotive was then retired from hauling logs. It would then be displayed briefly in a city park after the Union Bagcam Paper Corp auctioned the equipment from the Argent Lumber Company. The locomotive then ended up in Florida, where it ran at Petticoat Junction Theme Park. The locomotive was renovated in 1975 and the iron cab was replaced by a Hollywood-inspired wooden cab, and the original Porter tender was replaced, and it is believed that the renovation included converting the locomotive to burn oil over half a century of burning wood and coal. It operated there till the attraction closed down in 1984. It was then listed at the Ritchie Brothers auction, and in 1985, the late Fred Hallmark purchased the locomotive and he brought it to his ranch in Warrior, Alabama. He occasionally ran it there after repairs were performed in 2005. The locomotive was repainted in the same livery as the Roger E. Brogy locomotive at Disney World in Florida. The locomotive was then put for sale. By the time the year 2018 was over, and right after Midwest Old Threshers that year, it was purchased by Midwest Central Railroad in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. It was then moved to the location in 2019 and arrived at the site. The locomotive even went under cosmetic restoration, and the wood cab it had was taken apart with crowbars. The cab it has on it originally belonged to an existing locomotive that it lived with at the two places in Florida and Alabama. The locomotive that it belonged to was Carbon Limestone 9, which is an 040T tank engine built by the same factory but in 1949, and the owner of that locomotive was planning to build a wooden cab for it, so the steel cab was given to this locomotive. Also, that locomotive I just mentioned is located somewhere in Indiana, and the owner had no interest in keeping the cab as he wanted to replace it with the steel cab with a custom-built cab, and the owner of the Carbon Limestone Company donated the cab from it to the Midwest Central Railroad for the locomotive. In 2022, the cab arrived in Mount Pleasant, and it was put together on the locomotive and was repainted along with the rest of the locomotive body. Also, the cab had to be split in half for transporting, and once it arrived, it was put and welding was done to keep it together. The locomotive was soon beginning to look more original from when the Argent Lumber Company owned it. As well as that, the tender was repainted in 2025 to match the livery on the locomotive. And also, in 2023, the cowcatcher was taken apart, and also the original pilot was built from the ground up. And this one is presently on display and will eventually be restored to operation in the future, but for now it's just going to be on display where it is. But not only is it just in the barn for display use, but it's also used as an educational tool on how a steam locomotive works, which only happens during Midwest Old Threshers, and used as a Halloween prop during Midwest Haunted Rails, and a Christmas prop for North Pole Express as well. As well as that, Argent Lumber Company 3 is down at the Southern Forests World Museum adjacent to the Okefenokee Heritage Center down in Waycross, Georgia, and is the only 260 from Argent Lumber Company that isn't in the fleet of Midwest Central Railroad as well.
What you see right behind me is Milan 1811.
Milan 1811 was built by Carminati and Tasselli in Milan, Italy in 1928 and is a Peter Witt type trolley car. Originally, it was built to operate on the Milan tramway in Milan, Italy, and was originally numbered 1911. For several years, this car was used in the city of Milan, Italy on the Milan tramway system, and people rode aboard this car for several years. In the early 1930s, the livery was changed to a two-tone green. Then, in the 1970s, the livery was changed to a solid orange, and the livery worn by the remainder of Muni's Milan trams. Then the car migrated over to the United States of America, where it was sold to the San Francisco Municipal Railway in San Francisco, California, and was placed into service. Later, it was bought by the city of St. Louis, Missouri. In 2005, it was refurbished and repainted by Gomeco Trolley Company in Ida Grove, Iowa, and was repainted orange and was renumbered 1352. It was then placed on display at the intersection of Del Mar Boulevard and Leland Avenue and was adjacent to the Del Mar Loop line in St. Louis, Missouri. It was then acquired by the Midwest Electric Railway in Mount Pleasant, Iowa in 2021, and it was moved to Gomeco Trolley Company in Ida Grove, Iowa to have restoration work performed on it. It was repainted yellow as it represents the Iowa Hawkeyes color, and it was numbered to 1811. Then, in early 2025, it was relocated to the Midwest Old Threshers grounds in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. It was unloaded in one of the white buildings with the dual gauge track inside, and one of the Midwest Central Railroad diesels helped to bring it to the overhead wire as it would make its way to the Midwest Electric Railway. Then the car was later debuted on the Midwest Electric Railway just months before the Midwest Old Threshers reunion that year. Today, it can be seen here at the Midwest Electric Railway in Mount Pleasant, Iowa, and it also operates on the rail line around the complete circle as well.
Okay, you can see right here's a German tank locomotive, and also the locomotive is this is a Wood model of a steam engine built 1939, damp flow motive BR86, a 282T tank engine, scale 1 1/4, built from original prints, took 380 hours for build time, and it was built by Barclay Lauder, model builder, designer, Amana, Iowa. The train guy Amana. It was designed in 1925 by MGM Karlsruhe Locomotive Works in Germany. And the BR86 holds the longest production run of any engine ever. The engine was in service in Germany, Austria, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and the Soviet Union until the 1960s. And you can find this in one of the white buildings at the Midwest Old Threshers grounds. And I think this is Museum B. This is just nearby the penny smashing machine. Well, I hope you all enjoyed learning about trains with me today. And Matthew Lapp, Train Guy. Also, I hope to see you all again real soon. And if you didn't subscribe to my channel yet, the subscribe button is just down below the video screen. And if you didn't give the Facebook page a like yet, here's where you'll want to go. And if you didn't give the Instagram page a follow yet, here's where you want to go. And also, if you didn't get your merch at teesprings.com, the link is in the description box below, along with the Facebook page and Instagram page. Also, remember to subscribe to the Train Guy. So this is Matthew Lapp, host of Matthew Lapp Train Guy, signing out until next time. All aboard!